Welcome to my earnings gap review, and I'm going to include some stocks in this video that not only gapped up on earnings, but also from, maybe a contract or a news story, a change in the business or an FDA approval, anything that caused an event like this here for the stock to, go up more than 10% in a day with heavy volume. The higher the better. This one was Reddit up 17.5% on August 1st. And you can see it had a pretty good month as the gap day was August 1st, high in 196, the low 177. It ran up to 253 before pulling back the last couple of weeks, like the NASDAQ has done. We're starting to pull back here into September. But with earnings season winding down, I wanted to just take a look at some of these earnings gaps and just some of these stocks that have been gapping up recently. I'm not saying they're all going to continue higher. We have some failures also, but just reviewing some of the ones that look pretty good. And Reddit is doing just fine. In fact, going into this week, this is one of my favorite setups for next week, which the market opens Tuesday. ALAB, this one had a nice gap up. It had a couple of them. One was on news here. What day was this? July 21. Yeah, nice 19% move. And then here on August 6th, 28% move. So it made a new high of 199 back from this 100 level. So it was a two-bagger in a very short period of time. Now has pulled back the last couple of weeks. I should show the weekly here. These big moves and now pull back to a moving average. I think that's the 4 week or essentially the 20-day line. Yeah, that green line there. So ALAB still looks strong. Reddit, those are two of my favorite. The earnings reports were super strong. These are some of the best reports from last quarter. And so it stands to reason that the Wall Street institutions will, revise their models, upgrade the stock, raise their target prices, and essentially, buy the stock. Institutions want to own it, and that's what drives the price higher. AppLovin had a fantastic report as well. These are three of the best reports, along with Palantir and SoFi. But AppLovin ran up 12% on August 7th with nearly 300% above average volume. But this one pulled back to its 21, gave you another shot at it. So if you missed it here, if you keep watching it, you could take a swing. And this week, August 20th, it pulled back to 385 and now closed last week at 478. So AppLovin, this is one of the strongest stocks in the market. This is one that I have a lot of conviction with and my largest holding. But that doesn't matter to you. You just want to know if I buy it, can it go higher? And I think it will. 488.70, you get above that, that'd be a nice trigger. This one, I believe, is going to be announced going into the S&P 500 index this month of September. That's not a reason to buy or sell a stock. It's just probably going to be a catalyst for a move higher. VSAT, another one that just blasted higher. Couple of big moves here. This is one of the stronger stocks in the tape right now. There's 22%, then a 31% move. Yeah, on news, right? Not necessarily the earnings, but and here we see this rewarded a lot recently when the market's been doing well. It ran up, then it pulled back and formed this little wedge or flag pattern for a few weeks there. That's not just a couple of days. That's 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks. After the initial move right here on this week, June 13th, it moved 36% that week. You think, oh, I missed it. No, you didn't. You just wait for the pullback. And this one's rewarding. It still looks good to me here. Expect it to pull back to that 5 EMA. But yeah, VSAT, another one that looks darn good. Glowworm, GLW Corning, gapped up higher on July 29th. You could see the high 62.98, the low 57, but the gap was 12%. with nearly 300% above average daily volume. And since it's just, pulled back one day to the five, ran up, pulled back to the five, ran up, and then on Friday pulled back to the five. This thing just looks like it wants to be a Kelly Slater stock and surf the five for a while. And if you own it, you'll take that all day long. SE, this is a Singapore retail internet company, gapped up here on earnings on 8/12. 19% move. And do you think there's been buyers in this stock? I think so. Now closed on Friday at the 186.54. And let me see. I got others here. Extreme, not a real fast mover. You can see on the weekly here, this has got a big cup with handle pattern, the earnings line heading due north, and the stock is heading due north. Funny how that works. But the breakout day was August 6th. 14% move on earnings with nearly 300% above average daily volume. And this one looks kind of like Glowworm or GLW Corning, where it's just pulling back to the five and finding support. And if it wants to surf the five, I mean, I think 2134 is a good buy point. Friday looked like a good opportunity, even though I believe the Nasdaq's going to correct a little bit in September. There will still be stocks to own and trade. XMTR is like a robotic company, ramped on earnings, I believe, on August 5, 43% with 700% above average daily volume. And you can see it just surfing the five here to higher prices. On Thursday, it made a high of 51.26, pulled back, just had a little bit of an inside day, quiet day on Friday. And I kind of like that setup going into the week this week. Tuesday, the market will open, and you could just see, higher highs, higher lows, definition of an uptrend. If I, zoom in on this each week, the low, if you just look at that low there, $30.90, 41.23, 43.50, 47.29. You don't want to see it trade below that low, but as long as it keeps trending higher, 47.29, I'd buy this thing right here and stop out below 47, say 20. That one looks pretty good. Another one, different. See, these are all from different groups, is what I like. It's not just one area that's doing well. This is this building heavy construction group. This is part of the energy data center build out. And these guys are benefiting. I'll go to the weekly in a minute because I like the weekly chart, but a 17% move on August 5 with, the more than 200% above average daily volume. And now it's just surfing the five to higher prices. Look at this weekly big cup here, handle, shake out before the breakout. Now it's just moving higher, big blue walls of volume. That's what you want to see. Institutions are buying that one. All right, laser. This one is very interesting. Electronic parts, semiconductors, lasers, all the LiDAR stuff for cars and robots, for the future. The future is now. Anyway, this one gapped up 28% on August 8th with big volume. Now it's just surfing its five to higher prices. You got to, ride the trend till it bends at the end. You could see this one was like a high tight flag pattern prior to the breakout, right? So this is why we're watching these. These flags are being rewarded in this market. And lasers in it, just another example of that. And then MRCY, this is Aerospace and Defense Company, gapped higher on this date, which was, man, that's a big gap. 27% on August 12th, pulled back to the five, now being supported at the five. And it's got to take out that's, we'll call it $70 level. That would be a good entry or a trigger point, I believe. All right, now I've got to get to some of these that I know people don't like, but these biotech stocks are working, and this is ABVX, and that is one heck of a gap. Gap up. Like I say, not all of them are earnings reports. Some are, FDA approval. Some are just, story stocks. Some switching over to crypto. If you have crypto or AI in your portfolio, then, the stock is being rewarded. This one moved, only 586% on July 23rd, and then made this flag type pattern. I mentioned these flags are being rewarded big time. So it's got this little flag here and now trading at higher prices above 81. Closed at 81 on Friday. And look at this. This thing went from what, $8 to 80. Hello. And yeah, that kind of stuff can change your life if you've got, a good position in your portfolio. Yeah, that's a heck of a move. In that 1 week, the low was 996 to 72.90, made that little flag, and now it's trading higher the last couple of weeks. It was up 2 weeks ago, 10%, last week up 5%. I mean, it just seems to me like that one wants higher prices. Another one in this, I don't know, biotech drug area, whatever you want to call it, ANIP, doing really well, gapped out of a base August 8th and just surfing the five to higher prices. You can see some of those David Ryan ants indicating, that it's going up with volume consecutive days. Another one is IRTC. This is a medical services company that ramped up 18% on August 1st. This one pulled back to the 21 found support. Now it's riding the five like Kelly Slater, surfing higher prices. We like that. SUPN. Another biotech stock gapped higher on 8/6 following its earnings report. I believe that was an earnings report. Pull back to the five, now surfing the five like Kelly Slater to higher prices. Don't be afraid of the biotechs, man. Somebody's buying these things. Look at these big blue walls of volume. Yeah, it's not Aunt Sally buying that stock. All right. And the last one I'm going to show in this biotech group is RIGL Pharmaceuticals. Made this high, and now it's sliced the five, which I don't like. And the five is curling lower, which I don't like. But I'm waiting for this one to, because there's going to be profit takers, right? Look at all these. It was up, I don't know, like 12 days in a row. Pull back. There's going to be some profit takers, some sellers. But I mentioned these flag patterns have been working, and it looks like it just pulled back to that 4 week line there, which was 37.89. So yeah, definitely one to watch on these pullbacks because those have been rewarded, these flag patterns. And it looks pretty ominous that it was down last week, but stands to reason from going, I don't know, from what, $20 up to 40 is a two bagger in a very short period of time. You got to take profits, some profits at that point. And play with them. I don't like the term house money because it's always your money. But if you bought at 20, 10% share of your portfolio and you sold half at 40, then you're playing with profits. Your profits. You still want to protect your profits. All right, some other names here that went up on just news. Uh, this is Terra Wolf, went up on the Google contract. I believe they're probably going to be announcing more contracts, but once again, this is a daily chart. This thing ramped how much? 59%. Call it 60% on August 14th, and now it's making this little flag pattern once again. We've seen these rewarded over and over again. Let's see what that looks like on the weekly. Yeah, it was even up last week, even though it looked like it was down. We made that high the prior 2 weeks ago and then pulled back. It looked like it was really going to run away there, 1071. So that would be your trigger above 1071, starts making those new 52-week highs. We like that. TLS is another name ramped on earnings. This is a software security government type of stock, low priced. Normally I don't entertain stocks below $10, but making an exception here. This one went up 62%, then 35%, August 11th and 12th. Then, finally pulled back to its five on the fourth day or after the gap higher. And let's see what this looks like on the weekly. Yeah, man, moving higher above 676. That would be your trigger on this one. Nice, quiet inside week last week. TLS, computer software security, Telos Open. A lot of folks on social media into Open. It was down 11% last week. But you could see the big move. I think it was up like 190% one week here recently. There's 27%, then there's 189%. And then it made a new high at 497. Then what did it do? Well, profit takers come in and it pulled back for 2 weeks. 17% and 7%, which is nothing after 190% move. And then buyers come in, bounces off a moving average, 62%. 2 weeks ago, it was up 58%. These are big moves. And then last week pulled back only 11%. Probably another week of give back. Maybe not here. This one pulled back to its 5 on Friday. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see that one have buyers come in. So it's making these higher lows. If you look on the weekly, since the pullback here, the last 4 or 5 weeks, the low is 170, the low is 192, the low is 306, the low last week was 396. So you want to watch that. And all these charts that I'm showing you, just pay attention to the low. And if it's making higher lows, it'll probably be making higher highs. So yeah, it's kind of like buy the dip. When it comes down to that moving average, that's probably a buy. RR, this is a robotic stock. I think they had news with NVIDIA last week, really popped hard. A couple of sessions. The 26th, which was what, Tuesday? I want to say Tuesday. I might be wrong. It was up 32%. Then on Wednesday, and it was at day three, right? Day three move. I'm always leery of day three and what happens. Thursday, it pulled back 6%. Friday, only 2%. Not bad. Let's see what that looks like on the weekly. Yeah, just breaking out of a base. So you think, oh man, I'm late. The thing's too extended. No, this thing's just emerging out of a stage one base. I would definitely be paying attention to that. What's the level here? 520. Yeah, it's at 304. Yeah, only up 46% last week. So the news, if you got news with NVIDIA, it's usually good for your stock. This is a Precision PGEN, a $2 stock last week, breaking out of a stage one base. They got FDA approval, and I believe their drug is $46,000. But this is a nice, event, FDA approval, up 59%, and then just keeps ramping higher and higher. I know it's only a $4 stock now, but I could see that thing trading higher. It's got a lot of momentum. So be watching that one for dips. The last one, STSS, this is a syringe company that said they're adopting Solana. So this is the this is the times we're in, folks. 99% off of its 52-week high. This thing was what, a $10,000 stock, $24,000 stock during the bear market of 2022, came all the way down to what, $4? And then 2 weeks ago, it ramped 48%. And then last week, 84% moves. Solana is a big story. They had insider buying before the move. So I don't know if this one's going to continue higher. You can't even see it on a daily chart because the out price is so darn high at $10,000 not too long ago. May of last year, it was what? Yeah, May of last year was $10,000. And now here it is at 13. So this is an event, a change of story in this stock. So might be the beginning of a, uptrend here. It looks like it to me. So I just gave you 4 or 5 of these highly speculative, low-priced stocks that might be, these are tiny, 13 million market cap, 1 million shares in the float. So these are dangerous stocks, highly speculative, but you can't, you got to acknowledge and can't ignore these types of moves. They could be very profitable for you. Anyway, I also wanted to show you some of these that have failed, like Carvana. This one broke out nicely on July 31st, made a high of 413, and not two weeks later, 3 weeks later, it's trading at 318. So it's a $100 loss, undercut the 50, now rallied back above. I think that was the news with Amazon that brought it down. And the other one is Appfolio, APPF, another loser. It ran up to 326 on August 1st. That had a bad month. Ooh, no, it's up 10%. It was up 3% for the month of August, but on the daily, it's because it started here, right? Yeah. So it made that big move up to 326 on August 4th. So this big move was erased down to 263, 326 to 263. Not something you want. That's not very enjoyable. Look at how many days in a row this thing sold off. But it pulled back to its 21 and found support at the 21. So definitely one that I'm still watching. That's why I'm showing you this. And even though it failed, the breakout failed, it just pulled back to its pivot point. So Carvana and Appfolio, even though they failed, you still watch them because they made big moves once, probably going to do it again. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up.